So this is going to be a quick little segment. A viral LinkedIn post claims that an Illinois flower product labeled at 46% total THC came back at 28.19% total THC when the buyer sent it to a licensed lab. The post raises questions about lab methods, COAs, and what to do when numbers look far outside of the norm. Now, I'm going to keep my coverage on this brief because the author of this post is going to be joining me live tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. to walk through their receipts and answer your questions. Once again, that's tomorrow, October 25th at 10:15 a.m. Central Time. We'll outline what he found, why it matters, and maybe we'll talk about issues we've covered in the past, like potency inflation, lab practices, and transparency. And yes, this is not the first time potency and testing have been in the spotlight here in Illinois. I'll recap our earlier reporting with the Chicago Sun-Times here in a minute, and we'll toss it to a clip to watch. So if you're just tuning in right now, you're watching the Cole Memo. For full coverage and past episodes, visit thecolememo.com. This show is listener funded, supported by listeners like you. So if you value independent coverage like this, please support it by liking, sharing, or supporting me at colememo.com/support. And I've mentioned it a few times, but we are live to tape. So if you drop your comments below, they might make it on screen. You can also call in at colememo.com/live. And links to our sources and stories featured in today's episode will be in the description, as always. So let's take a look at this post that went viral. I'll read it aloud for some of my listeners. Let's throw it on screen here. Kirk Berry says, I went into an Ascend wellness store in Illinois recently to make a few purchases. I had seen a flower for sale by Ozone advertised at 46.31% total THC. That's not a typo. Natural flower at 46%. Interestingly, Ozone is a house brand of Ascend. So if you have an in-house brand of flower advertised at 46% being sold by the parent dispense. So you have sorry, I botched that sentence. I apologize. Kirk says, I investigate matters assuming a null hypothesis. In short, nothing is wrong, and I'm not going to find any significant discrepancy between label information and the product in the package. So he hand-delivered the sample to a licensed lab in the state of Illinois, and the results are that the flower he purchased is 28.19%, not 46%. And he says this represents a 39% difference. I'm not good at math, but 40 is 46 minus 29. Does that equal 39? Because I don't think that's the case. I might be doing the math wrong here, though, folks. He will be joining us tomorrow to discuss these findings. He says this is a consumer fraud issue, regardless of the grower's or seller's intent. The purpose of a label is that the information on it accurately reflects the products in it. He says it's also an anomaly worth further investigation. Claiming 46% total THC on flower is a modern-day miracle. I hope the lights and bells and caution alarms were going off at ACT Labs when they saw this result from their test and certified this percentage, assuming they did. Yeah, just a lot of different findings here. Like I said, we're going to be joined by Kirk tomorrow to sort of go over some of these findings. I will throw this back up on screen as well. Here we go. That's what I meant to do. So this is the rest of his post. He shows the package here. You can see the 45% THCA, which makes it a total of 46.31% THC. What do we think here? I see the comments are rolling in. He says in a recent post, he discussed ceilings on flower total THC testing. In other words, like what should the highest the non-infused sample test out at? It sounds like he's asking. So I'm going to be asking him about this, his findings. I also want to know what his answer is, right? Because people point out testing results like this, but like what is the difference here? Genetic Memory Farms says it's a 39% reduction of the originally claimed number. That's the part you feel free to call me again, I'm not good at math. I preface that. But if the original number was 46% and the number was actually 28, 46 minus 28 is not 39, is it? Or am I just, I don't know. Get back to me on that, please. Birdie says IDFPR, IDOA needs to buy products from shelves and verify those test results. We know there's a problem there. So here's the thing. I have asked the state about this in the past. We actually just recently wrote an article on the subject. If you go to colememo.com, you can see it. I'll try to throw this in the show notes, but the headline is From Testing Labs to Patient Portals, Key Takeaways from a board meeting that I attended. And if we scroll down to Illinois Department of Ag, they have the Bureau of Cannabis Testing. And so David Lakeman, the regulator there, said, so as complaints come to us or if there are issues, we're able to investigate those and do that testing in-house and have full chain of custody. This allows us to serve as both a better resource and it serves us as the regulator for independent testing laboratories in the state to be sure their methodology is good, that the structure is good, that they're approaching things in a good manner, I guess, and that we're getting consistent results. He also said we want to be aware of some of the lab shopping issues that have impacted other legal states. He says we want to make sure we're staying ahead of that, and again, providing both a resource to the industry as well as a regulatory tool for ourselves, making sure that the product is safe and well tested. He says it's our belief that safe testing is a cornerstone. It is foundational to a legal industry, whether it be medical or adult use. We want to be sure that we're meeting our obligations there and doing our best to meet the mission. Here's some pictures of the lab that's being built. And yeah, so I mean, your idea there, it sounds like they're getting started, and it sounds like they got started. We'll cover this in a little bit. Based on an investigation that we helped with, we helped the Chicago Sun-Times with. And I'm saying we collectively, not only you, but listeners of the show. I know some listeners of the show participated in this investigation, and there were some interesting results, not only with the testing results, but I think how the state responded, which is building a lab like this. I recall that being one of their main responses. So, Good Vibe Vet is commenting and said the dispo said it was a problem with printing the label. Interesting. So they commented on it. I'll have to ask him. He's going to be on tomorrow, so we could definitely ask him about that. He said, and Good Vibe Vet also adds, Ascend/Ozone wasn't the only mislabeled product. My experience. Yet, just a small story that people might find crazy. I knew somebody that used to work at a dispensary, and one time they received like an ounce of grams or something like that, but all of the grams had eighths, like a sticker for an eighth on it, and they had to destroy all the product. And I don't mean by like rolling it up and smoking it. As you probably know, if you worked at a dispensary or for people that work in dispensaries, destroying a product, you have to like mix the product with like kitty litter and soil. The protocol is different depending on the dispensary, but for the most part, you put it into like a composting machine and it mixes into soil so that basically, I guess, people can't consume it. So that's interesting. Good Vibe Vet, thank you for commenting with that extra perspective. Yeah, I'll have to ask him about that tomorrow and see if are you saying that this dispensary definitely reached out to Kirk and sort of responded. Let's see which dispensary was it. We'll pull this back up. It looks like the dispensary he got it from is Ascend on Horizon Drive, which I don't know where that is. Oh, you're not saying that they reached out. Thank you for clarifying that, because I was confused by your comments. So I'll be sure to ask about that. Genetic Memory Farms says the math is 28 and 46 is 60%. So it tested 39% lower than claimed. I am just bad at math because none of this makes sense. One would say it is 18 percentage points lower for a reduction of 39%. Can I ask other people, is any of this making sense to you right now, or am I just high? All right. Well, let's keep it moving here. This pattern fits what we've discussed in the past. In my interview with Chicago Sun-Times investigators Tom Schuba and Stephanie Zimmerman, they described assembling thousands of state test records, then buying 10 products and commissioning independent testing.
With cannabis sales booming in Illinois, we started with a simple question: what's in your weed? Sun-Times reporters spent months analyzing thousands of laboratory results for failing weed, which were filed with the State Department of Agriculture. The most frequent case of failing weed: too much yeast and mold. Experts told us pre-rolled joints can be vulnerable to such contamination.
Yeast and mold is probably the most famous around the country right now in the cannabis industry. It's the one test that a lot of people seem to have trouble with. Molds are spore-based. We're breathing in yeast right now. So if there's yeast in your air, there's going to be yeast on the product.
So we went shopping. We bought 10 samples at 8 dispensaries around Chicago and the suburbs. 9 were pre-rolls, 1 was fresh cannabis flower. We brought them to a state-approved cannabis testing lab for analysis, where the outside packaging was carefully opened and the samples dropped into the lab's sterile containers. Each sample was identified with a number and a letter. Here's what the lab found. 8 of the 9 pre-rolls tested above the state limits for at least one microbiological contaminant, such as yeast and mold, total viable aerobic bacteria, coliform bacteria, and bile-tolerant gram-negative bacteria. 4 tested above state limits for all of those. The fresh cannabis flower tested well under state limits for those contaminants. None of the 10 samples had detectable E. coli or salmonella, mycotoxins, or pesticide residue, and none of the samples exceeded state limits on heavy metals. Of special concern are a type of mold called aspergillus and mycotoxins, which are toxic compounds created by molds, neither of which were found in these tests.
Often, if I get a flower sample in here, more than likely it's going to have like a mold colony or 2 on it. That's just telling me that we have mold, but it's probably not aspergillus, because we're not seeing those mycotoxins coming.
We reached out to the Cannabis Business Association of Illinois for comment, and here's what we received. The safety and quality of cannabis products and the well-being of patients and consumers are top priorities of Illinois' medical and adult use cannabis industry. The Cannabis Business Association of Illinois will continue to work with regulators and other key stakeholders on the continued development of testing standards to ensure consumers are protected and continue to enjoy the highest quality products.
Once again, I sat down with Stephanie and Tom, who were featured in that segment. They came on the show to discuss their investigation. I'll link that episode in the show notes. In case you didn't know, if you look in the description for the episode from wherever you're listening from, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever, there should be a link to the show notes. I take a lot of time to throw all the links that I reference in the show so that you can dig deeper, because it seems like you're all interested in this stuff since you tune in. So hope you appreciate the work, trying to share my sources, trying to allow you to dig deeper. And that's how you can dig deeper. Check out the show notes. During the episode, we discussed ongoing whispers about lab shopping, murky recall transparency. Do you guys remember that mag landrace quarantine? You know what I'm talking about? And the state's plan to stand up a Department of Agriculture lab. Hey, we talked about that. That's what we were just mentioning. So apparently the idea was to test the testers at the time, even though I've asked about that, and the answers I've gotten are all over the map. We even talked about remediation and the lack of clear labeling around it. So be sure to check out that episode. Once again, it'll be linked in the show notes. Okay. What do you think, though? Folks, we've dropped comments. I'll try to display them. I saw somebody said they were going to be calling in soon, so that's cool. They said they were waiting until their pizza came in. I'm jealous. Now I want pizza. You can call in at colememo.com/live. Drop your comments below. People are saying the math makes sense. It's 39% of the larger number, which equals the smaller number. And I want to be clear, I'm not questioning the math. I don't understand the math, I guess. I think that's what it is. Cole Cram, fellow Cole joining the show, says I'm not high enough for math. Oh, got it. I thought I was too high to do math, but instructions unclear. I will increase. Cheers, folks. Other people are, I'm curious. What do you think about all this stuff? Cole says now he also wants pizza. I think it might be a Friday night pizza. I think it's notable to see a 46. So you see it labeled as 46%. It comes back as 28. First of all, I would have been suspect of the 46%. But what do you think? Is it an innocent sampling error? Is it bad data, or is it something else? Comment below or call in now at colememo.com/live. I'd love to display your thoughts on screen. And again, join us tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. where that person that made that post and commissioned the retest will be here to answer any questions you might have. Cole, I really hope I see you there. Brandon, I hope I see you there as well. Genetic Memory Farms, everybody that's tuning in, of course. I mentioned a few of you though, Brandon and Cole, because I know that you both either cultivate hemp or are involved in hemp in somehow. And he does a lot of tests on hemp products as well. And the findings are interesting, to say the least. So definitely tune in, and I'm curious what you all think. If you'd like to see another show he's done in the past, he recently went on the Dales Report, and they mostly talked about his hemp testing. But what I think is more interesting is this stuff that we're talking about right now, where you go to a dispensary and test, sort of audit the label, if you will, and the results are completely off. Hawaii Sustainable, I've not seen you in a while. I hope you're well. They say LOL, lab results are never reliable. Not breaking news. That dude just looking for attention during the circus circuit. The seniors seem to see through his BS interview this morning. No food testing. What are you talking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I definitely would love to check that out. Testing the stem in with the bud can affect it as well. Here's my question. I see a lot of people, they'll test THCA flower and they'll say, Hawaii says he was on a senior show. Please send me what you're talking about, or like, I don't know what a senior show is. Is it like for old people? Is that what you're talking about? Or what are we talking about here? But aloha, right back at you. One of the things that investigators point out with things like this, and then we'll keep the show moving, is they'll buy a THCA product and they'll say, well, this tested at 0.87 THCA, and the COA says 0.3% THCA or below that. Sorry, I mean to say it'll test at 0.87 THC, not THCA. I apologize, folks. But the label will say 0.3% THC. And I've seen people say, based on that result, well, this isn't hemp, this is marijuana. And I get why you would think that, if you know the distinction, the arbitrary distinction between hemp and marijuana. Of course, we're talking cannabis right now. All of this is cannabis. But if you know the distinction, some people might look at that and say, well, 0.87% Delta 9 THC, that's marijuana under federal law. But the lab result is saying that it's 0.3. From what I understand, it very well could have been 0.3 when it was harvested, and likely was, because the plant produces very low amounts of Delta 9 THC. But when you put a product on the shelf, it ages. And as a result, that Delta 9% increases. So, I don't know. I find results like that interesting. And I guess my question in bringing that up is, I'm under the impression that if it tests compliant when it was harvested, that it is compliant, no matter how much it ages. Let me know if I'm wrong on that, because I very well could be. Folks, let's talk about the rise of THC in everyday stores right here on
The Cole Memo.
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 The Cole Memorandums.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.